Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Biesbauer, Content Manager at Agiloft. Welcome to today's training webinar titled How to Use the New Agiloft User Interface, hosted by Agiloft Product Manager Pascale Laviolette. Today's training will explain the new elements of the user interface and how to navigate and search, as well as how to configure the UI to meet your needs. The presentation will be about 20 minutes, followed by a Q&A with Pascale. Please submit your questions in the appropriate window in the Zoom platform at any time during the presentation, and we'll get to those at the end. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Pascale.
Thanks, Jeff. So just before I get into the demo itself, I wanted to give a brief recap of some of the elements of our Spring 2021 release. So you see on the screen, there are 5 sort of themes. And in today's demo, we're going to talk about the first 2 primarily, which are the updates to our user interface, which is largely to do with navigating in the system, making that more intuitive. The second one is new search. So making search, again, more intuitive, more flexible, dynamic, so you can find what you need more easily. Other elements of this release are some updates to our Microsoft Word add-in. So that's one of our apps for Microsoft 365, and also a new add-in for Microsoft Outlook. We're also enhancing our Adobe Sign integration, so bringing the Adobe Compose experience into Agiloft, and also some updates to our AI core architecture. But as I said, today we're going to be talking about the new user interface and new search and how to configure some of those elements once your system is upgraded to this release. So with that, I'll start demoing. Okay, so here we are at our Agiloft dashboard. So this is a system that's now on the new release. And I'm going to start by talking about the way you navigate in the system and how to configure this navigation menu at the top. So to recap the elements that you're seeing up here, we've got the name of the active table grouping, which is contract management. And within this table grouping, here are all the items that fall within that. So some of them are system items like the home page, which has your dashboard. Other items are individual tables like contracts, approvals, and attachments. So to switch table groupings in your nav bar, you click the icon in the top left, and you can switch between different available groupings. We've added some new ones recently for matter management, sourcing events. So you'll see if I switch to a different one, it's updating my dashboard to the relevant one. And also we're seeing some new tables across the top. You can also perform searches from here, which is really great. So if you're looking for a table, you don't remember which grouping it's in, you can just start typing. Say I was looking for my clause library. So I can see some different tables available that have clause in them. If I'm looking for this one, click on clause library, and it brings me right there. So we'll go back to our contract management grouping. So that covers the table grouping name, tables within it. Also just mention that for each of these tables, you can configure what exists in their drop-down menu. So these ones, I think, have everything enabled, which includes creating a new record, seeing recently viewed, saved searches, charts and reports, and also setup. So I'll show you how we configure this. So this will be from an administrator's perspective. So you're configuring a navigation menu for certain teams. So navigating to setup, and look and feel, and navigation menu setup. I'm just going to go to the default one. So this is the navigation menu that I'm seeing, which means everything you see up here and all of the other groupings that I have access to. All of that is contained in this setup. So here's the name of our navigation menu. And here's where you're setting where this navigation menu lives. So right now, this one's set to top. So you can see it's up top. This is where you could also set this to be a left pane. And if you're converting an existing left pane to a top nav, this is where you would do that. So next, the content tab. This is where you really get into the building stage. So you can see like, here are all of the groupings I have access to right now. You see some familiar names. Within them, here are all the tables and system items. And you'll notice like clicking on some of these items like home, there's additional configuration options like when home is clicked, what should happen for the user? Do they see their default dashboard, their last viewed, or maybe a specific one you want to associate with this grouping? Additionally, for tables, if you click on those, you have these configuration items. And this is what I mentioned before about the dropdown. So here are all the items that are enabled in the contracts table dropdown for teams assigned to this navigation menu. So you have lots of control over that. There's also the ability to add subgroupings. So if I have some tables that maybe are extras and I don't want prioritized on the main layout, you can add a subgrouping within your main table grouping to store some additional items. So you can see here we've got some background tables. So that covers that configuration, and this is how you would apply these to specific teams. So when you're enabling the new UI, the first step is to set your look and feel schemes so that it's using new UI. The next step is to convert your left panes to top navigation, and you can do these at the team level. So we can assign these to particular teams and roll it out individually, if that makes sense for your organization. You also have the options here. When you do make changes to these nav menus, you can choose either to not push these changes to your users, you can force the changes to bring them in sync with the team, and you can also notify users about an optional change. So this means for anyone that has like customizations they've made themselves, they'll get a notification next to their username, letting them know that there's an optional change. They can choose to sync up with their team or ignore it. So that's that. The next thing I'll just mention quickly, so we looked at that configuration from the administrator point of view, but what I'd really encourage users to do when you're on this new UI is to configure your own as part of your preferences. So even if you're not an administrator, you can still make your own table grouping with the tables you want to see by navigating to your preferences. So if I go to Pascale's preferences, navigation menu setup, here I'm seeing that same navigation bar we just looked at, the one assigned to my team, but I can also add a new grouping. So maybe I want to say Pascale's stuff. So now I've got a new grouping name, and I can then add some things like maybe I want homepage. We can add contracts, maybe I use that a lot. Maybe there's something from sourcing events that I'm also using and I don't want to have to switch modules that often. So I could add sourcing events, maybe something else like from another group, like vendor profiles, that's maybe part of vendor management, but I want access to that. So again, really easy to do this. I can also set for my new grouping, whether it accesses the first table in the group or the first system item. And then I have these settings as well. So I think I'm going to enable all of these. Okay, so I'm just going to click finish, close this. Now we should see we've got this new table grouping. It's called Pascale stuff. So I have this easy way to get to tables that I'm using a lot. And I'm able to customize that myself without needing my administrator to set anything up for me. So again, really suggest people use that. It's a nice way to get exactly what you need. So the next thing I want to talk about is global search. So you'll notice we've got this search bar at the top here, and there's a drop down next to it. What's fantastic about this is if you know you want to search in a specific table, you can click on the drop down here and initiate that search from anywhere in the system. Like you could be in the approvals table and run a search against companies and it would take you right there. So that's really great new functionality. There's also the option to search on all tables. So that means searching on all the tables you have access to view. So for example, if I did a search for Acme, start to see a summary being loaded of all the tables where search results were found for my search term. So lots of results for Acme throughout the system. And you'll notice in this summary pane, it's saying how many records were found. If there's more than 5, it just says 5+, and that's just to keep the performance high for the speed of the search. But you can scroll through here to see a preview of what it found. So say I was maybe looking for an approval record related to acne. I can look at this preview here. I could even open the record if I found the one I wanted from this preview. Or if I decided like, okay, there's more than 5 found for approvals, let's see what the full results were. I can click on approvals in the summary pane. So now I can see that that 5+ was actually 15 total records in approvals for acne. And from here, I can continue drilling down, like maybe I was looking for something that's pending approval. So just shows you the combination of doing something like a global search and then combining that with a more refined table search once you drill down. Okay, so next thing I want to show is more about using the table search. So I'm going to go over to contracts. And we'll open our search pane using the button in our action bar. And actually, I'll start on default view here. Okay, there we go. So just as a recap of this, the new search pane, it's got 3 sections to it. The first is this text search. So basic text search, familiar options underneath. In fact, I'm going to remove context and synonym for now. The second area are these quick filters. So these are totally configurable and they're associated with whatever view you're using. So I'm in the default view. So here are the quick filters associated with that. And I'll show you how to configure those in a moment. But the purpose of these is just having filters close at hand that you use really often. So things like status, I can really quickly filter based on status without having to build out a specific search. And the last section, I'll talk about a bit more in a bit as well, but this is adding custom filters. So it's really allowing you to get a little more specific with what you're searching. So you can do searches with specific operators. And essentially everything you can do with a quick filter, you can do with a custom filter, but you can get a little more specific with it. So this has a really, really powerful and flexible filtering. So I'll just show you how you configure these or how you add these quick filters to your search pane. I'll switch to my personal view. And again, like really suggest that users configure their personal view similar to configuring their own personal nav bar because you know best what you want to be seeing. So I'm on my personal view. I'm going to click edit. And here's a list of all of our fields. Some of you may be familiar with enabling quick edit on certain things. So quick search, very similar. It's a new column on the same setup area. And this is what you would tick off to display something as a quick filter. So I think I had company name and, or hold on, I had contract type and I had status. So maybe I want to add, let's say, record type. Okay, so let's add record type to my quick search. Tick that box, click finish. And we'll see my search pane update. So now I have record type as a quick filter. So I've got 3 enabled. So now I can use this to filter my records. So super easy to configure. Again, it's configured at the view level. Okay, so next, let's talk a little bit more about the custom filters, because I think this is really cool. And in fact, if you didn't want to include any quick filters on your search pane, you're not losing any functionality there. You can use custom filters to do everything these can do. The benefit of the quick filters is just that they're already sitting there, so it saves you a bit of time. But custom filters can be really powerful. So let's say, for example, in our contracts, we want to find contracts whose deal value is greater than $50,000, who have a risk rating higher than 50%, and who use the governing law of California. So let's say that's our problem we're trying to solve. So we can do that using custom filters. So let's start with deal value. That would be the contract amount. And I'm going to say is greater than or equals $50,000. Oh, and actually I made a mistake here. I put less than instead of greater than, but super easy to fix. You can just click on your custom filter and it opens it so you can edit it. Okay, so contract amount greater than $50,000. Next, a risk rating higher than 50%. So that would be the overall risk percentage, yeah. So that is greater than 50. So we're drilling down a little more. And lastly, uses governing law of California. So let's look at governing law. Governing law to use, there we go. And I'm gonna start typing. This is basically allowing me to search within my clause library. So if I start typing governing law, I should get some suggestions. So there's California. Great, so we've managed to drill down to a single record in our system just using custom filters. So pretty cool. What's also great about this new search is that you can remove individual filters. So with our old search, if you were refining and stacking filters and you wanted to maybe change one of them, you couldn't do that. You had to start from scratch. But now you can change these on the fly. You can also remove individual ones, mix and match them maybe with your quick filters. So lots more flexibility here. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about is synonym search. So as part of the new release, we've added a legal synonyms dictionary, and I'll just show you where that lives. So in setup and system, customized synonym dictionary. So we have some legal synonym dictionaries, and what this means is it's basically some definitions of certain terms where if you're searching on them and you click that synonym checkbox on your text search, it's going to search both for the term you wrote and any defined synonyms for that term. So this is great just about getting more accurate search results if people are maybe using different words, different terminologies, but have the same meaning. And just to call out that you can edit your custom dictionary. So organizations can do this today. So even if you don't have a full legal dictionary, you can add custom entries. So I'll just show you as an example, like here's one, synonyms of challenge, contest, dispute, and question. So I'll show you how this plays out in the contracts table. So if I'm searching for, let's turn on context, dispute. So here my search returned 8 records. So these are all showing dispute. But if I turn on synonym search and click apply, I've actually got 14 records. So here are some where it returned results for question, challenge. So we're seeing a more complete set of results because we're searching more on meaning rather than on the specific term. Yeah, so that's what I want to show you about synonym search. So I think that covers pretty much everything I wanted to show you today as part of the new UI. Next, we're going to turn it over for Q&A.
All right. So we got a lot of questions coming in. That's great. And we will get to them one at a time here. Let's see if we go from the top. I believe we also have Jack Wicks, product manager, on the line to help us answer questions as well.
Great. Thanks for joining, Jack.
Yep, no problem. Hi, everybody.
Let's see. It's Anonymous says, what if there are more tables in a table group that do not fit in the screen? So I assume that means on the top nav bar.
Oh, it's a great question. So if you have more tables than fit horizontally on your screen, they get grouped under a heading that says more. So it'll just be a little drop down that says more on the far right. And from there, you can access any tables that didn't fit horizontally.
Okay. Firing away. Can we change the order of the items shown in the table drop-down list?
That's a good question. So meaning like adding a new record, save searches. I think they are in a fixed position. Jack, correct me if I'm wrong. You can enable and disable them, but.
I'm not sure which table list we're talking about. Pascal, do you know?
I'm assuming, sorry, the table dropdown. So across the top, if I click on the contracts dropdown, I have the option to add a new contract, view recent records, save searches.
Yep, that order cannot be customized, but you can change the order of the modules that you can swap between, the order of the tables on the nav bar. But yeah, not the order of actions available under the table dropdown.
What about, can we restrict users creating new table groups? Restrict users from creating new table groupings?
Yeah, I can answer this one. So you can definitely restrict users from creating or editing groups that you have applied as an admin to multiple teams. But a user will always be able to create their own customized one, their own personalized one. But then again, as an admin, you do have the ability to override their personalized one. So if a user has created their own personalized one and they're not happy with it and they just want you to override it, you can go into what should be their default table navigation setup and override their configuration with the correct one.
Great. And I just want to say that we will provide a recording of this training. And we'll send it via email in 24 to 48 hours, but it'll also live on our website. So if you missed anything or you want to go back, this will be available. Okay. Next one, can we set a default table in the global search?
Oh, I don't think you can set a default search on that, but the global search will default to whatever table you're in. So say if you clicked on contracts, that drop down next to the global search will say contracts. So as you move around, it will update to default to where you're at currently.
Yeah, so if you have users that are primarily working in one table, if they go to search, it'll search that table.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. A broad question, but as an administrator, what happens with the new release if you don't change any settings for the teams or groups?
Okay, so basically nothing happens. I think you will still see that updated kind of menu at the top right. Like you saw how I had like a profile picture and an icon for settings and things like that. But as far as like the new stuff, like new search, table view, top nav, if you don't change any settings, nothing will change for your users. It's very much like something you have to turn on. So yeah, nothing will happen.
So it won't affect end users unless you engage and turn on the new release. Sorry.
Yes, so it's a two-step process. Like first you would update your look and feel scheme to use the new UI. It's a setting on the first page of the look and feel scheme. But that also, like nothing changes when you do that. That's just like the first step. And then you would go into the navigation menu setup for your teams and switch those to top. So once both of those things happen, then those users will see the new UI. And you can do this on a team-by-team basis because, as I'm sure you guys know, look and feel schemes and navigation menu schemes apply at the team level. So you could choose to roll this out team by team.
Great. And just to clarify, this training, you're looking at an administrator view.
Yes. Well, I mean, most of what I showed would apply to users that aren't administrators, but that first part, when I showed like configuring the navigation menu, that was from an administrator perspective, someone that's setting up these nav menus for different teams in their system.
Right. We got one from Jacqueline here. Once we run a search, is it still listed by page? Only 15 rows show at a time. Can we put the entire list into an Excel sheet to manipulate the info or send to someone else?
So I assume they're asking about doing that like global search on like all tables. As far as I know, we haven't, you can't export that into an Excel. sheet, but that's a really great idea. Jack, am I right about that?
Yeah, so if I wanted to export data from multiple tables, if you're an admin, you can actually go into the admin setup and then go to export, and you can export multiple tables at one go from that interface. I'm not so sure if you can apply searches to them though, so I would have to go check that. But definitely, if I'm trying to export data, I would be doing it through the export wizard, either on a table by table basis or going to that setup export and then exporting from multiple tables.
Great. Janice, we sort of answered this question. How is the transition to the new system going to be implemented? Is there anything else to add there as far as the timing?
So I mean, if your servers will get upgraded, I think scheduled from, I think it's the first one's getting upgraded the end of next week. You'll receive an email to let you know your schedule, and I think the upgrades, depending on what server they're on, depending on what server your knowledge base is on, your instance is on, that'll get upgraded a weekend from either the end of next week all the way through into May. And then once you're upgraded, you will then you'll be able to go in and make the admin changes that Pascale just talked about.
Great. Mark asked, does the new UI support an end user's preference to use their personal view on tables such that it persists when logging off and logging back into Agiloft?
Yeah, I can answer this one as well. So any customizations that a user makes to their view, so if they're doing on the fly rearranging of fields in that table layout, or maybe they're dragging them wider, or maybe they're just editing their own personal view, all of those changes will persist when logging off and logging back onto Agiloft.
Rebecca asks, are company names now in alphabetical order rather than organized by table number?
I'm assuming that's like when doing the quick search, like for a company name, are they listed in alphabetical? I think they might still be by ID number. When doing the search on the search pane, like if you start typing like the letter A, it'll bring up like Agiloft, Acme, Apple. So it's still going to be filtering based on what you're typing, but I'm not certain if those are actually displayed in alphabetical order by default.
Yeah, I think it's probably still ID, and then in the results they can obviously be filtered in or ordered in any order that you would like by clicking on the top of the header. But I think by default it's system ID.
Okay, a couple questions about the synonym dictionary. Asking what's the difference between legal dictionary and the system dictionary. Do they need to build it, or will it come default? Yeah.
Yeah, so the legal dictionary is a lot smaller than our system dictionary. The legal dictionary is a list that we've created based off legal terms that we think contract users are going to be searching. I think we've got about 100 and maybe just under 150 terms in there by default that you'll get with the new upgrade. And we'll be adding to that list and refining that list. The system dictionary is the same synonym dictionary that we've had in Agiloft, but in the background, you can now have visibility of that. And it's got thousands of records in there, thousands of synonym chains in there for sort of general English language. I think there might be some other languages in there as well, but general English language use, so not legal specific. There is also the custom synonym dictionary that you can add any terms you want to.
Great. Asking if videos will be updated, if we'll be getting documents for the transition. The answer is yes. Our Agiloft wiki has been updated with all of this, and that's the best place to go for information regarding the new release. And we also have some new tutorial videos up on the website with the new release, in addition to this training, which will be on there in 24 hours or so. The legal dictionary will be available for Word plugin. Question?
The legal dictionary currently applies to synonym searches made from the Agiloft web interface. Right now, any searches that you do in the I guess Word AI plugin. Sorry, I think if we're talking about the Agiloft Contract Assistant for Word, the searches that you're making in that interface currently don't use the synonym library, but it's something that we'll look at. We are always adding new features to that, the Agiloft Contract Assistant for Word, so we'll look at including that synonym when you're searching for clauses. It's a great suggestion.
Great suggestion.
Awesome. Yeah, and we're just over. So thank you for all your questions and your participation here. Once again, we'll post this on our website and send you an email of the video. And if you like this webinar, please come back next week. We'll be talking to Klein Tools about the most overlooked aspects of value with contract management, and we'll do that on April 13th at 8 a.m. So we look forward to seeing you there.